and I think I kind of want to talk about that a little bit about Binger, not about that, but about Binger in general, because it's funny. All the people that want Kyle locked up and thrown away the key and all this stuff, they're typically the ones that are telling us that the judicial system is prejudiced and that these people are bad people that are in charge that are locking people away. You would think that they would see what's going on and how dishonest and disingenuous the prosecution has been and the cops have been, and would say, wow, maybe we have some crossover there. Maybe these people can kind of get their eyes open.
Right. None of them are watching. None of those people are watching the trial, though. Yeah. Everyone you're talking about right there, none of them are watching the trial.
Yeah. And I know that Robert's been tied into this case from the very beginning. I know I know that Robert was up there for a while in Wisconsin when they were doing jury selection, all that. What's kind of your takeaway of Binger and the prosecution and what they've done in this case?
I mean, it's been a corrupt, politically motivated prosecution from day one that would not be brought by 99 out of 100 prosecutors. Other prosecutors have said the same thing. I think the judge thinks that and recognizes it as such. And the only reason we're here is because of the politically motivated prosecution. And Kyle may be at some degree of risk of a mistrial because they decided not to take any of the help that was offered for jury selection. It appears, I mean, the cultural component of this is very strong. So it appears there's like 3 Karens on the jury. They were sitting together when they came back in. That's the risk factor. And there are people who do harshly judge someone like Kyle because of games like Call of Duty. In other words, these are the kind of mothers that say, oh, you shouldn't watch that. You shouldn't participate in that. See a gun and they think scary, scary, scary. I mean, it's that kind of mindset, that kind of mentality. And because of all the pretrial prejudice and pretrial publicity from that created that prejudice, is why Kyle was at any degree of exposure. When we polled Kenosha, basically about 2/3 presumed him guilty. Now, many of those you could persuade otherwise once they knew what the real facts were, because you had a completely fake news narrative and media narrative about this case, all of which have been proven to be documented and demonstrable lies at this stage. Not that the media has really backed down that much from those lies. Nick got into a little discussion with Dear Joe Scarborough, who wanted to keep repeating the lies on social media. But I mean, the kid's as innocent as any self-defense case I've ever seen. He's as innocent as any defendant, as any person I've ever represented. I represented him up to a week before trial. I had a disagreement with Mark Richards about, I thought we needed a very robust jury selection team and that he might benefit from some additional people at counsel table during trial too. I was willing to forfeit one as long as we got the other in terms of jury selection because of the risk. And I think, unfortunately, they have a couple of rogue jurors on that jury, and now Kyle's got to pray that they come to their senses and give them the full acquittals to which the evidence entirely entitles them to. And people like Jonathan Turley, leans a liberal Democratic law professor, Alan Dershowitz, longtime left-wing law professor, both of them said the kid's completely innocent. So this is any honest, objective observer watching the development of the facts, even despite a lot of unfortunate errors, unforced errors made by the defense during this trial. The evidence is so overwhelming, the facts so clear and convincing that there's no doubt the kid is completely innocent. And it's only because of media lies that the kid faces any risk or exposure at all.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, like Ripa, I know me and you actually released a similar video, and I didn't see yours until after I did. Basically, just talking about how this is more important than Kyle Rittenhouse. You know what I mean? Yeah. But 100%. Like, that's kind of like the whole, and that's no disrespect to him, because obviously from his perspective, this is massively important, but none of us knew who Kyle Rittenhouse was before this happened. But now you look at the implications.
He took up his gun.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck around and find out. That's what happened. But, so now we're at a point where, in my opinion, and again, we have 2 experts here, but, and Nick Rekieta. Chris is the other expert when I said 2, but no, but, we got 2 experts here with Rekieta and Barnes in terms of the legal aspect. But if he's found guilty, in my opinion, this is bad for every one of us for the future of self-defense and anything, because it shows you that political ideology and social media and activists and people that don't want to work for anything in life except for, working to pretend that they're oppressed can really affect the outcome of a cut and dry self-defense case. Am I missing something there, or is that
gun ownership
accurate?
I think gun ownership in general is also being attacked right now.
Yeah,
no doubt.
True.
Yeah, we heard it from the prosecution's own mouth that he should lose his right to self-defense because he brought a gun. I mean,
right.
Which is
there it is. Exactly. See?
Yeah. And it's perfectly legal for him to have a gun. We've many of us have known that for a very long time, but the judge confirmed that by dismissing the gun possession charge. He was a 17-year-old who was legally allowed to have the gun he had. He was legally allowed to be where he was. All of that narrative is gone. And if you notice, that narrative got abandoned by the prosecution, and now they had to rebuild their entire story in the past couple days, and they've been working really hard on it. But Robert and I had talked about this a long time ago with the gun charge, that charge was never proper, and a good read of the law would show that. The media never wanted to do it, and the reason they never wanted to do it is because the very audacious idea that a state might allow a 17-year-old just the ability to carry a gun around for a short period of time was so atrocious to the mainstream media, despite the fact that, that's been happening in our country for 250 years. Well, technically longer, even before we were a country. That's been the norm. And they're trying to make it not the norm and to make it seem audacious, but it never has been.
To make it criminally provocative so that you no longer have a self-defense because you didn't take a beating, as the prosecutor said Kyle was supposed to, because you didn't engage in a fist fight, because the prosecutor says that's what you're supposed to do, because you're supposed to recognize a Glock is smaller than your AR-15, so you're supposed to just drop your AR-15 and assume the Glock won't hit you from 2 feet away. A bullet won't hit you in the head. I mean, that was some of the absurdities, but the dangerous absurdities. This implicates self-defense for everybody. It implicates Second Amendment rights for everybody, because if they can convict Kyle Rittenhouse, this kid, under the facts of this case in a place like Kenosha, middle America, they can convict anybody, anywhere, anytime. The corruption of the press combined with the corruption of the prosecutor can railroad anybody, and they don't want you to have self-defense. They want they only want to be the ones to control the streets. Their approved leftist violence is the only approved violence. They want the same thing the communists want, the so-called anti-fascists of the 1930s in Germany's wanted. They wanted to own the streets, own the bars, competing with the Nazis and the fascists to get it. And they want to be able to be the only ones that are allowed to use violence, the only ones that are allowed to be criminal, the only ones that are allowed to riot and loot. I was watching some of the press coverage tonight, and they were still calling it protest. That Kyle shot people at protests. No. He shot himself at self-defense against a bunch of criminal sociopaths who are rioters and looters and arsonists who are trying to destroy the dreams of people in Kenosha. Yep. Kyle was the one protecting a minority, immigrant, woman-owned business. That was Kyle. Kyle wasn't the one using the N-word. That was the person he shot, was the one calling people N-words all night long.
And Mark Richards, to be fair.
Yeah, I was going to say
yeah. Other than Richards' decision to repeat that in opening. And the only person who's been reckless with a gun in this whole trial is the prosecutor himself, who decided to point a gun at the jury with his finger on the trigger.
That was crazy. There's been so many things, I think, for people that aren't used to watching these types of things play out. Even you guys, even the lawyers, even the experts who are used to watching this play out have been shocked by some of the behavior of the prosecution and the lack of objections by the defense at times. And for Krause, for that dude to stand up there and say that, he was a coward. He should have stood there and fought the entire mob. The only thing that Krause has been fighting his entire life is high cholesterol and type 2 diabetes. Like, let's get that straight. Like, there's no way that dude has ever been in any type of fight whatsoever. And Ripa, you made a couple videos about this too. And I think that the echo chamber that exists for most of the people on Twitter with blue check marks for the mainstream media, that they can't possibly see this any other way. What's your take on kind of that side of things and how people still, even when it's right in front of their faces, they can't understand.
Well, look, this whole thing has been the case against democracy, the case against, which is effectively mob rule anyway. But I say all the time that the people are retarded. You know what I mean? And that's just what it is. I mean, you can sit up here and put it in a lot of people's face for them, cut and dry, clear, and they still it's like they don't want to see it. So they prevent their eyes, or rather their brain, from processing what it is right there in front of them. This is actually amazing, because this is about as, like, what Robert was saying, about as clear cut and dry self-defense that probably we'll ever see. And the fact that really this is even on trial should worry everybody, even if you get the results that it is that are more preferable. These guys have been able to spin a situation, and they're so, and this is why I continue to call them retarded, because they can't even, they're so, as a default, right? This is why NPCs, I say this every day on the show, is the most appropriate term to describe these people that we're dealing with. The fact that they're still playing, I had a guy, when I was talking about it this morning, playing this whole racial aspect of oh, well, he's white, this and that. Like, there's still people out there that don't understand that the only people that this man shot were other white folk. As blue check mark still, despite this being a public trial, still running with that nonsensical default. And it's because they're fucking stupid, and stupid people are fucking dangerous, and they're willing to unfortunately ruin someone's life over this, because they look at it like, and this is why I'll piggyback off of what Robert was saying. This is why it's way bigger than Kyle Rittenhouse, because what people are saying that want him to be essentially criminalized is that you obviously don't have the right to defend yourself, and in the event that you protect yourself from their political allies, you then become the criminal in that case. And that is such a dangerous precedent, certainly to set, because you can see it, or rather hear it, in the language it is that they use. Like, one of the go-tos with this is, well, he had no business being there. Notice they don't apply that same logic to the rioters and the looters and the arsonists or anything like that. One of which, I believe, that Gage cat traveled like 30 more minutes further than what Kyle did to get there.
Like 60 miles or something. Yeah,
exactly. So with that being said, they've been stripped of that, but they have to continue to apply that, because, again, they believe that they have the right to use aggression upon other individuals. And they damn be if there is a person that wants to stop someone from being successful at doing that. They want you completely relying upon the state, who's when it comes to protecting you, they have no issues telling be it National Guard folk or be it the police officers to stand down as people run your fucking entire block down into the motherfucking ground. They'll tell them to do that. So that's flaky at best anyway. But what they want every individual in this country really to be is dependent upon them, and not being able to protect yourself from potential aggressors, which is all this is really what this case is. It's a guy that took protection of himself and property in his own hands, and he was successful, very efficient. And this is as a guy that shoots guns all the fucking time. I'm obsessed with him. And for him to be as efficient at that young of age as well, if anything, is about the most impressive shit that I've ever fucking seen, because the only threats that were neutralized were the actual threats. And that's fucking impressive. But this has implications, I mean, well beyond Kyle Rittenhouse. And this is something that I've, of course, been trying to relay to even the libertarians, that, we look at all this shit as corrupt all the time. And yeah, of course, I would believe that. But understand, if this man goes down for this youngster goes down for this, they smell blood in the water, and it's only going to increase from there. And this is why it's very important. It's vital that we pay attention to this. And it's going to be interesting to see what the results are. But if this man goes down, you got to understand that this shit's about to get real.
Yeah, and to make the point, like, and I know this is the Geeks and Gamers channel, and we're talking about, this, and the reason is because this channel is elevated off of us talking about what a lot of people say isn't very important, But like I said, the same people that were calling us racist and sexist for not liking a movie are the same people that were saying we're endangering society if we don't get the jab. You know, just they can get it. That's fine. None of us have a problem. You can go get it. But then they're telling us that their authoritarian way, we have to like the movies they like. We have to do the things that they want. And now with this situation, these are the same type of people that are pushing that. So it all matters, and it's all going to affect every single aspect of our lives. And that's what we're seeing. So it's important to speak out against it. And so that is the point that I wanted to make. And so Ryan, toss it back to you.